So today we're going to learn about child classes and parent classes. So this is an example of a parent class. Parent classes, you just write it like this. You don't have to um child classes reference another class. That's why they're called a child class. But this one you can see that we're totally making it from scratch, which means that it's a parent class. So, yeah. The one that we learned about yesterday and the one that I reviewed just now are parent classes. So, creating a child class, when you create a child class, normally you can see you just say class person to make a parent class. But when you're making a child class, you say class, the name of this class is going to be student, and then you refer to person. So, I'm going to copy this in. Right now, it doesn't do anything, but we just made a class called student and it uses the person class. So you can see here, let's use this instead of this. So here I have x equals student. His name is Mike Olson, and I'm just gonna print his name. And then okay, here I'm gonna add stuff to the child class. So now this is a child class and it has the init same as the parent class. It has self, first name, last name. But here, instead of doing self, so normally we would do self dot first name equals f name and self dot last name equals l name. But here we're just doing person dot init, which means we're initializing this and it has first name and last name. So we don't need to do all of this. You just need to have this one line in order to initialize it. And then instead of saying person, you could just say super. Super is referring to this parent class. So whenever you use the super keyword, it just refers to the parent class. So you can say person, which is the name of the parent class, or you can say super. Either one, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so here it says by using the super function, you do not have to use the name of the parent element. It will automatically inherit the methods and properties from its parent. So, yeah, like it says there, you don't need to use it. Also, when you use super, you don't need to say self. Just put first name and last name. So, it should work if you just do it like that. And something good about having child classes is that new properties. The class, let's say I want to add their graduation year, then all I have to do is self dot graduation year equals whatever year they graduated. I'm going to say it's 2022. So yeah, now it has a new property. Before it only had first name and last name, but now I added their graduation year. You can also change it to something like birth year or something like that, but I decided to make it this. So yeah. And then if now because we added a new property, make sure that you also add um yeah, you have to add a new value here as well. So if we were to refer to this, let me make this bigger. Okay. If we were to refer to this parent class, you're just going to say y equals person and then their name. But now we have a child class and it's the same as the parent class, except we added a new property, which is the graduation year, which is why when we start class, we need a graduation year as well. Didn't have this, then you don't need to put this, but we do. So make sure you add it here. And then you can use this in other cases too. Like, let's say, maybe you have a dog. Okay, let's call this parent class dog. And then I would make this dog. I wanted to have and a breed. So first name equals that, and then, or I'll say BRD for breed. So if you're changing all of the properties, you need to make sure that um so if I want to change the properties of this, I need to make sure that I change everything. So first I changed the class name to dog because now I want to um make properties for a dog. I have first name and their breed. So here, instead of having a person's first name and last name, I'm just going to name it something random. Like maybe their name is Snowy and it's a German Shepherd. So now I have two properties in this parent class, first name and breed. And then we have their first name is Snowy and their breed is a German Shepherd. So that's done. And then make sure here you also need to change this to breed. Okay. So if I were to do now y.print name, so I don't need to like do everything complicated to print out the first name and last name. All I need to do is reference this part of our class. Because here I'm saying when I call this part of my class, so when I say print name, like I did right here, what I'm going to do is print the first name and then the breed. So I'm just going to run this. Hold on. I'm going to delete this part for now. Okay, so now if I run this, we get their name and then the breed. So you can use a class for whatever you want to. Um, like in this example, we're using it for a person. Let me show you guys. Okay, so in this example, we're using it for a person and we're getting their first name and their last name, but you can use it for other things too. And then I'm going to show you the same case, but with the child class. So before, this right here is what the child class was. Let me add a comment. Child. And then this one is the parent class. Okay. So that one right above was our parent class. Now we need to fix the child class. So instead of naming it student, maybe I'll name it owner. So it has the same, I'm going to make it have the same properties, F name for a first name and BRD for a breed. So they're the same, except this time I want to add the owner name. So then I'm going to say super. So when you use super, you're referencing the parent class. So I want to say super dot owner equals, and then wait. Oh, sorry. It's um you use super here, and then when you when you want to add owner, I'm just gonna put it here, and then I'll just shorten it to like this. So, okay. Now we have a parent class that defines dog. There's two parts, first name and breed. So here we're doing the same thing in the child class, first name and breed, except this time I wanted to add a new property called owner. So when I reference this child class, I'm going to say x equals owner, and I'm going to use the same name. So I'll just, but this time I'm going to add the owner name. I don't know. I'll say their name is Bob. And then, um, and then if you, let me go back to here. So if you guys want to print the name of, if you guys want to print the properties of the child class, you just do the same thing as this one. So, yeah, I can just say, I'm going to make my own. So I want to say define, dog info. And it has to accept some, it has to accept. So I'm going to say print self dot f name. Wait, self dot name. Okay, so if you want to print everything out, now you can just say dog info of, yeah. So we do the same thing as above to print something. I just named it dog info, and then you can add other text when you print them out. So I have the dog's name, the dog's breed, and then the dog's owner. So let's say I wanted to print the statement. I'm going to comment it. Let's say I wanted to print the statement. My dog's name is Snowy. They are a German Shepherd, and Bob owns it. So here we have the dog's name. This is the dog's breed, and then this is the dog's owner. So I'm going to make this into a sentence. I can say, my dog's name is, this is their name. So I'm just going to add that. So my dog's name is plus their name. Now I say, they are a, and then I want to add their breed after. So far it says, my dog's name is plus their first name, and then they are a, then their breed, and then the last part would be, and let me change this up, and the owner is, and then the owner's name. So now I can make a sentence out of all the parts of my class. I'm going to say my dog's name is plus their first name. They are a, then their breed, and the owner is plus the owner. So if I press run, line 20. Okay. Okay. So my error was that I forgot to add this owner to the definition of init. So make sure that you have all of your properties here. So I have first name, breed, and owner for this class. And then for this one, I only have two because in this one I added another one. So now, this first one, when I say y.print name, it just prints out the name and then the breed. But then when I say x.dog info, it prints out all of this, which ends up being my dog's name is Snowy, they are a German Shepherd, and the owner is Bob. So now I have a whole sentence that I made based off of my class. Um, yeah, and then there's other examples like before we were using the person class and then the student. So there's graduation year, and then let me use this example. Okay, so in this example, the first one is the parent class, and then this second one is the child class. Um, and then we have, I'm going to say x equals student. His name is John Doe. I'm going to set his graduation year to 2022. And then if I said x dot welcome, let's see what it does. So it says, welcome John Doe to the class of 2022. So what this is doing, we have our child class here, and it has three parts: first name, last name, and year. Here we have his first name is John, last name is Doe, and then his year is 2022. So we refer to the parent class to initialize first name and last name. And then we have the graduation year, which is a new part. And then here we have another part which is called welcome. And in this part, we want to print welcome, first name, last name to the class of, and then their graduation year. So if I press run, again, it just says welcome John Doe. So welcome, first name, last name, and then to the class of, and then self dot graduation year. So yeah, when you make a reference to the class, when you make a reference to the class student, you have John Doe 2022. So now we can use it like this. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that's all of the child and parent classes. Um, let me okay. So now we're gonna before I move on to the next part, let's do some exercises. So let me send you guys a link for this in the chat. Um, let's start with Lambda. Okay. I'm gonna send this to you guys in the chat. Okay, I just sent a link for the exercises to you guys in the chat. Um, I'll do the first few ones with you guys, but um, maybe you can try a few of them on your own as well. So the first one is about Lambda, which we learned about yesterday. If you guys need to reference something, here, let me send you this website too. So the first website that I sent in chat, in the general chat, is the exercises, and then I just sent one right now so that you can look at the information. But if you didn't remember, Lambda is like functions. So in math, how we have like f of x functions, it's the same thing. So here it wants us to create a Lambda function that takes one parameter a and returns it. So this is the same thing that we did right here. It took one parameter a and then returned it with a plus 10. So yeah, but you could just fill it in. Um, it's Lambda. Okay. Um, if you guys let me reload this. So if you guys finish filling in all the boxes, like this, and then you press submit answer, it's gonna say it's correct. So yeah. I'll explain this step by step. So when we want to create a Lambda function that takes in a certain parameter, first you need to write Lambda and then whatever parameter you want to take in. So the parameter is basically just the name of the variable you're using. So let's say you have a function f of x, x would be the parameter. But in this case, this whole thing is called x, and then the parameter we want to take in is a. So that's why I put that there. And then we have a colon, and all we need to do is return a. We don't even need to add anything to it. So we just say a. And then you guys can submit it. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to try and type this one, and then once you get it correct, let me know. Okay, so I think people are starting to finish up, so I'm going to move on to the next one now. But if you guys are stuck and you have questions, just put it in the chat of whatever class you guys are in, and then the teachers will help answer them for you. So next, I'm going to, okay, next we can do classes. So right now we're on the Lambda section, but if you guys just press on Python classes, it's going to open up these exercises. Just press on one of them and then it'll say exercise. It should say create a class named my class, and then it's going to have this. So basically, it just wants us to make a class called my class. Remember that in order to make a class, all you need to say is class. And then we submit it and it should be correct. So And then once you get it correct, you can press next. Okay. I'm gonna go through all of these exercises first, and then if you guys don't have time to follow along, I'll give you some time at the end. So next we want to create an object of my class called P1. So remember when you're creating an object of a class, first of all, you want to name it P1 in this problem. So here's the name of the object, P1. And then in this part, we want to reference my class. So I'm just going to say, um, it's just like that. So, um, yeah, when when you create an object of a class and it doesn't have any um, special parameters or anything like that, then you can just have the name of your object, the name of the class, and then a parentheses. So yeah, I'm gonna press submit and it should be correct. Okay. The next one is saying use the P1 object to print the value of X. So in this one, we already have an object P1 made, but this time it wants us to print um, X from P1. So I'm going to say print P1, and in order to get X, you can just do .x like this. So yeah, here we have the name of the object and then whatever we want to get the value of. In this case, it's X, which is why I put X. So p1.x, and if we print it, it should print the value of X. Make sure to submit your guys' answers to know if it's correct. And then if you're stuck, you can press show answer and it should say what the answer is. But afterwards, you should erase it and then just try to do it yourself. So I'm going to submit my answer and it should be correct. Okay. This is the last one, exercise 4. This one is asking what is the correct syntax to assign init function to a class. So if you guys didn't remember, this is what it's referring to. Init is short for initialize. So it's just the underscore, which is above the dash button. So I'm just going to make underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and it should work. So all you need to do is have the name init. That's the init function, and then you need to have 2 underscores before, 2 underscores after. And then I'm going to press submit, and it should be correct. So let me just leave this one up. Okay, so I want hopefully you guys are able to do all of these by yourself. Let us know when you're done, and also make sure to ask if you have any questions because I did go kind of fast. And then if you guys forgot how to do one of them, David also uploaded all of the screenshots of how to do everything in the live lecture notes. So if you guys look there, you can see how to do each problem. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the next set of exercises. If you guys didn't finish, you can do it for homework. And also, if you guys are stuck, make sure to ask questions on what you're stuck on or go to the live lecture notes and look at the solutions. So, the next part that we have to go over is, um, I think inheritance. Okay. So yeah, this is what we just did with the parent and child classes. It's asking what is the correct syntax to create a class named student that will inherit properties and methods from a class named person. So let me go to here. Remember that when you make a child class, you have the name of the child class and then the name of the parent class in parentheses. So in our example, we have is asking for a child class named student, and then we want to um, take stuff from person. So the child class is called student. And then in parentheses, we're going to put the name of the parent class, which is named person. So again, student is the name of the child class, person is the name of the parent class. And make sure that's put in parentheses like this. And then you can submit your answer and it should be correct like this. And then when you press next, we can see exercise 2. So exercise 2 says we have used the student class to create an object named X. So here we have the student class and this is our object X. It says, what is the correct syntax to execute the print name method of object X? So basically, we're just saying that we want to use this print name function right here. In order to use it, all we have to do is x dot print name and then parentheses. So again, it says, what is the correct syntax to execute the print name method of object X? So we made this object X, and remember that when we have a child class, it has all of the same properties of the parent class. So here, if we say x.printName, then we're able to use this method called printName in order to print out this student's name. So I'm going to submit my answer and it should say that it's correct. So let me, I'll go to exercise 1 and do it again so that you guys can try it too. Okay. So let me send a link again. Okay, so I just sent a link again for this exercise. I'll give you guys a few minutes to finish it. And again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to ask in the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna move on, but if you guys need help, remember that there's the lecture notes and you can always ask questions. So the last thing that I'm gonna go over is called try except. Basically, so in Python we have errors, which maybe you guys have gotten errors before. I've gotten errors before. This allows you to, I guess, test if some part of your code has an error in it. So, um, try except is, I'll just read this. It might not make sense right now, but I'll go through examples. So hopefully it'll make sense a little later. The try block lets you test a block of code for errors. The except blocks let you handle the error. The else block lets you execute code when there is no error. And the finally block lets you execute code regardless of the result of the try and except blocks. So, first of all, this is a simple example. We have try and except. Basically, let me put this into the editor. So we're just saying we want to try printing X. If that doesn't work, that means that there was an error or exception. So I'm going to say an exception occurred. If I print run, it's going to say an exception occurred. This is because when we try to print X, we never made a variable called X. So how are we going to be able to print X? So we get an error and then we print an exception occurred. If we don't have the try and except blocks and we just say print X, you're going to get all of these kind of errors and then it doesn't really make sense. So if, oops. Oh, if we just have this, then we know we just print an exception occurred. So it's just an error like this. Um, Yeah, this says since the try block raises an error, which means when we try to print X, we have an error. So the except block will be executed. So this has an error, which means that we're going to print this. Without the try block, so without this part, the program will crash and raise an error. So I already showed you guys what happens when you just say print X. It's just a normal error because we never made a variable called X. Let's say there's well, you can have more exceptions if you want to. If we do this one, okay, I'm gonna press run, and yeah, it just says variable X is not defined. So there's a lot of different types of errors. One of them is a name error. That happens when you try to use a variable that you didn't define yet. So here, I never said what X is equal to, which means there's a name error. So I tried this, it didn't work. So I move on to this, except name error. It is true, it's a name error. So I'm gonna print variable X is not defined. But if the error was something else, then I would print something else went wrong. But in this case, when I press run, it just says variable X is not defined because we never gave X any value. So that's the error in this case. Okay, so that was how you use except, but now there's something else called else. It says you can use the else keyword to define a block of code to be executed if no errors were raised. So I'm going to put this in. Except occurs when there's an error, but else is going to occur when there's no error. So first I'm going to try print hello. This should work because all you're doing is printing out a string. It's not like a variable or anything, so it should work, which means we're going to skip except, and then we're going to move on to else, and then it's just going to print hello and then nothing went wrong. You can see here it prints hello successfully and then it skips except and then it moves on to else. So it says nothing went wrong. If I were to print X, like the previous example, and I have an except and an else, and I press run, it's just going to say something went wrong. So here we got an error, and then it prints something went wrong because something went wrong, and then it just skips this part because it already did this. But yeah, if you print some kind of string, it's just gonna print the string and then say nothing went wrong because there was no errors. So yeah. Lastly, there's the finally block. So the finally block, if specified, will be executed regardless if the try block raises an error or not. So no matter what is before, it's gonna print it out all the time. So in this case, this is the example from before. We tried to print a variable called x, but we didn't ever define x. We didn't give it any value. So it gets an error, which means we are going to print something went wrong. Regardless of what happens here, it doesn't matter whether this part was true or not. We're going to print this. It says the try except is finished. So we print something went wrong, and then we print this. If this was an else, this would not print out. I'm going to press run. It's just going to say something went wrong. But when we say finally and press run, it just prints whatever is here no matter what. So it doesn't matter whether this top part is true or false. Okay. This is a more complicated example, but I'll try to explain it. So, okay. Here it says this, so like the finally, except everything can be useful to close objects and clean up resources. So in this example, we're trying to open and write a file that is not writable. So um in here basically we're saying f object open demo file.txt. We don't have any files called demofile.txt, right? So this is not going to work. And then if we try to write something in the file, so normally if you open a file in Python, you can write in the file. So here they're trying to write lorem ipsum into the file, but that's not going to work because the file here doesn't even exist. So it's just going to say something went wrong when printing to the file. And then this is going to work no matter what. So I'm going to try press run. Yeah, it just says something went wrong when opening the file. So basically what happened here, we had try. We tried to do this. We tried to open it, but we can't open it because there's no file like that. So we just immediately go here and say something went wrong when opening the file. But let's say this file existed. If this file existed and it worked, then we are going to move on to here. We're going to ignore this part. But since that file doesn't even exist, this line is false, meaning that we immediately go to the except. And then we print something went wrong when opening the file. Yeah, and then there's something called raising an exception. You're basically just saying that some kind of error happened. So we have x equals -1. We want to check if is less than 0, but we raise an exception if it's true and say, sorry, no numbers below 0. This one doesn't work because this is not true. So yeah. It says the raise keyword is used to raise an exception. So you're like creating an error. you can define what kind of error to raise and then the text to print to the user. So here I chose to print, sorry, no numbers below 0. But you can change it. So I'm going to use this example. Oh, okay. I'm going to use this example. And I have x equals hello. That's my variable. It has hello inside of it. I want to say if not type x is int. So here I'm just saying if if the type of x is not an integer, then I'm going to raise an error and say only integers are allowed. Here, so you can ignore the red part, but this is the part that we actually coded. It's type error, only integers are allowed. So here we made our own statement and it's saying that an error occurred. The type of error is type error. Um, only integers are allowed. So yeah, this is working. And you can change the message inside. You can say this variable is not an integer. And if we run it, it changes. Now it says type error, this variable is not an integer. Yeah, so you guys can try that on your own if you want to. Let me send this link in chat. Okay, so the most recent link I sent is for this one. And then I don't think there's any exercises for that section, so yeah, if you guys have any questions, make sure to ask in the chat. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it for this part.
Okay, so now Hamasu can start with the rest of the lecture.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh wait, sorry. Hold on. Let me do this. All right. So I'm gonna be talking about Python file open, which is basically just how we use files. We read them, we write in files, and like we create files. And all the files we're gonna be talking about for today are gonna be .txt, which means they're just text files. And so Python file handling, it's relies on this function, and it's just the open function. And you can see the open function is just open and then parentheses. And the open function takes in two parameters. The first one will be the file name, just the name of the file, and the mode we're using. And these modes, there's only 4 options, so 4 different modes that you can choose from. And the first one is the read mode. And this is a default value, so that means that if we put nothing for the mode, it'll automatically choose read as a mode. And all this does is it opens a file to read it. And if the file doesn't exist, then it's going to give an error to us. So error if the file does not exist. And then our next mode is called append. And you can see it's represented by this A. And all this one does is it opens a file to append. What all that means is that it opens a file that exists, and then whatever you want to add to it, it's going to add. So append just means add. And you can also remember that because it starts with an A, it's like adding. So, and this one, instead of giving an error, it's going to actually create the file if it does not exist. And our third mode is going to be write, which is represented by a single W. And this one opens a file for writing. So all that means is that when you open the file, you can type whatever you want into it. But instead of adding it to the end of the file, like the append, the write is actually going to overwrite what's already there. So I'll show you guys what that looks like later, but you can imagine that it's overwriting what's there. So if I put hello and then I did write goodbye, then it will delete the hello and then put in goodbye. So this one, it creates the file if it does not exist. So whatever you put in as the file name is what all of these are referring to. So then our last mode is going to be the create mode. And this one is going to be represented by a single X. And it's just all it's gonna do is create this file. So you give it a file name and it just creates it. But if the file already exists, it's gonna give us an error. So it says returns an error if the file exists. And then you can also specify if the file should be handled in binary or text mode. And we're mostly gonna be using the text mode because text is what we're using for today. You'd use B or binary mode for things like images. And these they go after, so you can see we have R. So this is the mode and this is the file name. You can see the file name is demofile.txt. And then the mode is RT. And R, if you don't remember, it stands for read. And then the T stands for text. And if you don't have anything for the mode, it's going to default to read and then default to text. So you can see these two will actually do the same thing. And you need to set this equal to a variable. So F for file, I guess, F equals open. And then we're going to put in the name of the file. And we don't need to put in the mode because R and T are both default values. So if we leave them out, then it still works, and it's just gonna assume you mean read, and it's gonna assume you mean text. And then so to go into more specifics, we're gonna be opening like a real file. So assuming that we have this following file located in the same folder as Python. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy and paste this into my VS Code. So if you guys don't have VS Code open right now, could you guys open that? And then I will send you guys this text in the general chat on the Discord. So check out the general chat right now. And then I should have sent a message that says, "Hello, welcome to demofile.txt. This file is for testing purposes. Good luck." And let me know when you're ready. You have VS Code open and you have a workplace that you chose. you don't need to worry about all this other stuff. Just open VS Code, and then I'll tell you what to do next. All right. Now that everyone has VS Code open, we're gonna be creating a new file. So I'm gonna right click new file, and then we're gonna name this demo file.txt. Then I'm gonna press enter, and you can see it open up this new file. Then I'm gonna go ahead and copy the message from the Discord. So copy that and paste it into this file. And then I'm gonna save it. Let me know when you guys are ready to move on. Are we ready to move on? Yeah. So to make a new text file, you can right click, and there should be something that pops up, and then press new file. And then you're gonna type in the name of the file you want to make. So let me delete this one I just made. All right, so new file, right click first, you click on new file. Then you're gonna type in the name of the file, demo file.txt. Then press enter, and it should open something up called demo file.txt. And it should be an empty text file. And then from there, you want to go into the general chat of the Discord and then copy that thing I sent. It should look like this. And then paste it into demo file. Then we're going to save that. And yeah, that should be it. Oh, okay. So if you don't, I mean, if you're not in a directory yet, you're gonna go to the top left of your VS Code or Visual Studio Code. Click on File, and then you're gonna say, oops, you're gonna click Open Workspace from File, and then navigate to your Documents folder, and then from here, you should be able to right click on the side, and then you see this new thing. It should say new, and then you want to click folder. And you can name this whatever you want. So I'll name this like Python stuff. And then I'll press open. Oh wait, sorry, this is the wrong thing. It should be open folder, not open workspace from file. Open folder, and then go all the way to. So I just created a folder called Python stuff. I'm gonna open that. And then it should lead you to this right here, and you're finally in a directory. You should see like get started and stuff like that. And I can go over it again if you missed it. All right, now that you have your folder set up, if you see this get started thing, you can just exit for now. And then instead of going on open editors, you want to go to whatever your folder is called. So mine was called Python stuff. And then you can either click on new file right here, or you can right click in this empty black area and click new file. So you can either click here, or you can either right click and then click new file. And from here, we're going to do the same thing. Name this demo file.txt. And then now we can finally copy and paste the stuff I sent in the general chat for the Discord. And then I'm gonna save this, and then we will move on when you guys are ready. All right. If you guys are ready, we can move on. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a Python file where we do all our coding. So you're gonna do exactly the same thing. You're gonna either click on new file, or you're gonna right click in the empty space and click on new file. We're gonna create a Python file called hello.txt. I mean, not .txt, .py, sorry. And it should have this symbol, this like bluish symbol. It might be a different color, but it should look something like that. Make sure you do .py, not .txt. .py means it's a Python file, so let me know when you guys are finished with that and ready to move on. All right, so now that we have the Python file ready, we're gonna try opening this demo file.txt. So the first thing we're gonna do is create that variable called f and set that equal to open parentheses, and then quotation marks demo file.txt, comma, and then quotation marks again, r, and from there we're gonna print f.read parentheses. And now I'm gonna run it to see what happens. And you can see when I run it, it says, hello, welcome to demofile.txt. This file is for testing purposes. Good luck. So you can see it successfully read everything that was in our file right here. And then it printed that out for us. Let me know when you guys got this to work. All right, looks like you guys are ready. So I will move on to the next thing, which is if the file is located in a different location, you can also specify the file path. So you can see that this person had to put the exact file path like this. So this is only if it's in a different location. So these two files, hello.py and demofile.txt, they're part of the same folder Python stuff, right? But if demofile.txt was in a different file entirely, then you had to find the exact location and then give it to Python like this. But it would technically still be the same because you'd still be giving the file name technically. But this one is just you're just giving the location with the file. So we don't need to worry about doing that, but something important about when we're printing it is that you don't have to print out everything. So by default, f.read, it gives us the entire file, right? Like it goes through the entire file and prints out everything in the file. But if we only wanted the first 5 characters of the file, we can put 5 in these parentheses. So I can put a 5 right here. And if I run it once more, you can see that it'll only print out hello. So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the first 5 characters of our file, which is why it only printed out hello. So you guys can try this out really quickly. Just put in 5 and run your code. You should see it change a little. And it's okay if you don't get this. Just know that you can choose how many characters to print out. And the next thing is reading lines. So if you only want to read the first line of your file, then you can use f.readLine. And then to read the next line of the file, you do it one more time, as you can see. So if I want to try this out, I'll erase this 5, add in line before it, and if I run it, it's going to print out, hello, welcome to demofile.txt, and that's all it prints, because this is the first line of our file, right? And then if I were to type this in twice, like this, and I run the program one more time, you can see that it prints it out the first 2 lines instead. And it's also important to note that it prints out an enter. You can see there's a space in between these 2 lines. But you can also see that it's printing out the first line right here, the second line right here. So to only print out one line, you can use the readLine function. And you don't need to try this out either. Just know you can use readLine. And then if you wanted to do something maybe a little different, you can also loop. So f equals open, blah, blah, blah. And then you can say for x in f, and x represents each line. So if you print out x, then it'll print out each line. And I'll show you guys what this looks like for x in f. And then I print out x. You can see it prints this out the first time, and then it goes into the next line, prints that out, and then the next line prints that out. And then one thing to note is that it is really important that you, or really good to always close your files when you're done with it. And you can see this note, you should always close your files because in some cases due to buffering, changes made to a file may not show until you close the file. So it's good practice to always close your files using f.close parentheses. And this is so that your file, if it's getting changed, that you see it immediately because you're closing it in the program. Because sometimes if you change your file and you look at it, it might not be changed yet. So you have to close it to make sure that it really, like the changes, you can see them. We're going to move on to the next part. So the next thing we're going to do is file writing. And I mentioned 2 types of file writing. The first one was append. And if you don't remember, that one stands for like adding. So it will append to the end of the file. You can just imagine this means it will add to the end of the file. And then write, you can see it says it will overwrite any existing content. So now we're going to try coding this right here. We're not going to create demo file 2, so just replace that with demo file 1. And this one you actually want to try out, so try to type this one out. And now we're appending, so I'm going to change this R to an A. And then I'm going to say f.write, not read, write. Now the file has more content. And then f.close, close parentheses. Now if I run it, nothing prints out, right? But if we look at our file, at the end it says, now the file has more content. So we just wrote this into our file. demo file. So you guys should try that out right now, and let me know when you're ready to move on. Here's what the code looks like. Alright, if we are done with appending, we can move on to writing. So all we need to do is change this A into a W, and then we're still using the write function. This time we're gonna say, whoops, I have deleted the contents, exclamation point. And then when I run this and we look at our file, you can see that everything we have got deleted, and instead it only says, whoops, I have deleted the content. And once you have this one done, let me know as well. And then we can move on. All right, if we are ready to move on, we can move on. So there's a few things we can do when we're creating a new file. Using X will only create the file, and if the file is already there, it's gonna give us an error. So if there's already a file called myfile.txt, same name, then it's gonna give us an error. And if you want to see what that looks like, I can actually do that right here. So I'll put X for demofile.txt. You can see we already have it here, right? It's right there. And now if I run it, it says traceback. There's an error. File exists. So that's the error we got. And now we're going to create this file called myfile.txt. Myfile.txt. And the mode is X because we're creating it. Now if I run this program, you can see on the left, there's something just popped up and it says myfile.txt. So it successfully created the file for us, and we can go in and type whatever, and then, or we can just leave it. So you guys can try that right now. Try creating your own file. Let me know when you guys created one, and then we can go over the write function to create one if it does not exist. So if you already successfully created your file, or if you haven't, you can try right now. And all you need is f equals open, and then the name of your file you want to create, and then you can either use X or W. But if you use W, you can write in it after you create it. But for X, you can't write in it. All it does is it creates it. So it really just depends. I think you would rather use W because you usually want to write in some file that you just created. So you guys can try that out right now. Let me know when you guys are ready to move on. All right. So once you guys have all completed, making this file called myfile.txt, then we can move on. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna do deleting files. So to delete a file, you first need to import this thing called the OS module. And then there's this function you can use. It's os.remove. And you just put in the name of the file and it'll delete it. So we can do that right now for the file we just created. So first we need to import OS. Then we gotta do os.remove. And then let's remove the file called myfile.txt. And watch what happens to myfile.txt when I do this. You can see it's gone from here, and everywhere else it's red and it's crossed out because it doesn't exist, right? It's like it disappeared from my folder, it got deleted. So you try that right now and let me know when you want to move on. All right. Nice job. Next thing we're gonna do is there's this little thing we can do where we can first check if the file exists, and then if it does, then we can remove it. And then else, if the file, it doesn't exist, then we'll print out the file does not exist. Before we do that, let's just see what happens. So we already deleted myfile.txt. Let's see what happens if it's not there right now. So you guys can see there's a file not found error. The system cannot find the file specified, myfile.txt. And you could definitely use the thing Hannah teacher told us about. So the try and then the accept, that would also work. But we have this little program that also works. So if os.path.exists, myfile.txt, then we actually remove it. And then else print file does not exist. So if I run this one, it's going to tell us the file doesn't exist because, we already deleted myfile.txt. That one makes sense. So you guys can try this one out and let me know when you're ready to move on. Yeah, so this one should give you the file does not exist. Because we deleted the file myfile.txt before. Once you completed this one, we can move on to the delete folder. So this like all of our programs we have right now in our files, so hello.py and demofile.txt, these are part of this folder called Python stuff. And we can also create a whole nother folder inside of Python stuff. We can name this like test. And then inside test, I'll create a txt called test.txt. This is a test. Then I'll save that. So you guys can create your own folder by clicking on this new folder button or right clicking and pressing new folder. And make sure you're clicked on your new folder and then do new file or right click and do new file. Should open up this box where you can start typing in the name of your file. And once you press enter, you can type whatever you want inside. And then once you have all this ready, we can delete all this right here. And to delete the folder, you're going to do os.rmdir. And this stands for remove directory, because a folder is also a directory. And our directory is called test, right? So if I run this, so the problem right here is that actually to delete a folder, it needs to be empty first. So you need to delete everything inside that folder first. Let me just delete test.txt. So you don't have to create that. You just have to create a new folder called test. And so if I try running this again, you can see that that folder called test just disappeared magically because we removed it with our code. And so you guys can try that out right now. Remember, this is the new folder button right here. And you can let us know when you're finished. All right, so hopefully you were able to get that folder deleted. If you still need the program, I can send it in the chat, in the general chat. And I'm gonna pass it to Serena, who's gonna tell you guys what your homework is.
Okay, so today I want you guys to finish all the solo learn. I'm not sure if you guys were able to finish it. I also sent it yesterday, but we want to make sure that you guys get their certificate. And when you do, make sure to send a picture of it in the chat so that we can all see that you got their certificate. Yeah, but I can send the link again to that. But make sure to just finish that and send your certificate. And that's it. Yeah. So we're done. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.